Welcome to Sincast, presented by CinemaSins.
Here we are. We are finally doing a podcast. We've been talking about doing this for at least 20 years.
25.
We've been 25.
25
That's
years.
right. Oh my God, you're right. It was 1990. We were all holed up in a basement, and we decided, you know what? We need to do a podcast for this future YouTube channel. YouTube didn't exist yet. That's how future, thinking we were back then. But anyway, my name is Chris Atkinson. I am one of the co-founders of CinemaSins, along with my partner in crime, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
Who is also the co-founder of CinemaSins and the voice of CinemaSins. That's the voice that you hear in your dreams and every time you watch a movie and I don't know, other things too, like masturbation probably as well.
This just got fun.
And then we're also here with Barrett Scher, who is a writer of music video sins. If it wasn't for Barrett Scher, we probably would never have had a music video sins because we don't have time to do it on our end. And so here he is. He is going to help us out with this podcast here today.
I got time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what are we going to do? Well, you know what? Apparently we're going to talk about ourselves again, which apparently everybody needs to know how we started. And we've done this before. Like, how many times do you say we've come up with the origin story of CinemaSins?
62.
62 times, by my count.
But if we do it here, then future podcast questions from fans will hopefully not include this information.
Yeah,
Where'd
exactly.
you guys come from?
Yeah. Where they going? Where they been? I mean, every time we've done a convention of some sort, the first question usually is, how did you come up with the idea of this? Or it's usually at the, if we decide to go and talk to a press junket of some sort, they ask, how do you come up with this idea? So, the genesis of it, obviously, comes from the fact that we're both movie theater people who worked in the movie theater business for a long time, and it started with the Thursday night showings before a movie would come out, and being fans of Mystery Science Theater, we did our own Mystery Science Theater on these Thursday night shows.
People probably don't remember, or at least a lot of our fans don't realize, sadly, is that used to be you had to put the movies together in the projection booth. It would come on 6 reels of actual, touchable film. And projectionist managers like Chris and I would have to stitch those together, and then it literally was part of our job to watch the movie to make sure we didn't screw up and to make sure there wasn't scratches on the print or what have you. And so we would be paid to sit every Thursday night after midnight and watch movies that weren't even out yet. And it was freaking glorious. Nowadays, I don't think they even get to watch them beforehand at all.
They don't. There's actually some rules in place because of the digital rental policy or whatever it is, and it's stupid. That's one of the big reasons why you would ever want to be working at a movie theater to be able to watch the movie before everybody else does and when nobody else is in the theater, because it's great when there's nobody in the theater.
It's glorious. That was
the sort of the beginning of it. Everybody kind of who's a fan of Mystery Science Theater and can kind of come up with some things here and there is going to do Mystery Science Theater type of stuff. Now, YouTube didn't exist back in the days that we were both working at movie theaters. I unfortunately worked all the way up until 2013 in movie theaters. That was the worst ever. But in any case, you, Jeremy, started getting into online video because of writing at Real SEO.
Yep.
And that's how that first germ started. You started learning about all that type of thing. I came on to the site Real SEO later, but it started with you going to that. And I think that was where did you first start getting the idea?
I did a column. Real SEO is a website that talks about online video tips and news and tricks and whatnot. And Chris and I both spent time there working as writers and editor. But I did a weekly Friday viral video roundup where I would just find that week's most popular, appealing viral videos, something Freddie Wong did, something from Improv Everywhere.
A lot of cat videos.
There were plenty of cat videos because cat videos are awesome. But and I don't think I'm capable of doing that kind of thing for very long without getting the bug myself to try something. YouTube is this great open landscape where anybody can put up a video. Why not give it a try? And I think that's when we started experimenting.
Yeah, and I had absolutely really no interest in online video for a really long time. I know that I wanted to write and do stuff involving writing and got into Real SEO without really knowing much about online video. I think Mark Robertson, the founder of Real SEO, knew this, but I think as long as you can write competently about the subject, you don't really need to know that much right off the bat anyway. I wasn't like supposed to be an expert right away. I was just trying to find different little things to write about. But I remember the first time that I realized that there was something to this was when the YouTube Creator Handbook came out, and I was covering that, and I was writing on each new chapter, and I was like, oh, there are a lot of ways. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. What these people do to get successful on YouTube, it's right there in the handbook. Mm-hmm. Now, you have to be good, first off. You can't just come out with and do anything and then follow the YouTube Creator Handbook and suddenly like, oh, just horrible videos are getting popular. I mean, I'm sure that there are some people who disagree with that. Horrible videos are being popular all the time. What are you talking about?
CinemaSins is horrible.
Exactly. CinemaSins is horrible. But I started writing on that and I was like, wow, okay, that makes sense. It was around that time, it was shortly after that, you had left Real SEO and you started making videos and like supercuts and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think we found out with the supercuts, those things were just immensely popular right off the bat. Like you put them on and it was just like, people loved seeing, just the kicking and Kickboxer and
the swearing and Pulp Fiction.
Just the swearing and Pulp Fiction. And when you condense it down to this type of production, it's like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know it happened so much.
A lot of kicks.
Yeah, exactly. I do enjoy the one comment that was on the Kickboxer one where the guy was like, oh, come on, those weren't all kicks. There were knees. There were very many knees. But so that started off that, and it was that was fine for a while. But of course, when you ever use movies and footage and everything, you're at the whim of YouTube and the copyright issues and all that stuff. So our most popular one was, I believe, the Fast and the Furious, Just the Shifting, or it might have been the Avengers Hulk one. I think both of them got hit. And so it was like, okay, so sort of back to the drawing board on this.
And anecdotally, just for those who maybe aren't aware of the YouTube system, like Justin Lin, the director of several Fast and Furious movies, posted that supercut on his Facebook page. He loved it. But there's no connection between the creative people and the men behind the curtain pushing the buttons on the copyright stuff. And so that was really heartbreaking for me that the director had posted it. That was the first big, like, somebody noticed us.
Yes.
And it was like 2 weeks later it got pulled. It was depressing. So
What's that channel?
It's called The Cussing Channel.
Oh, nice.
It still exists, but most of the videos I either deleted them for fear of reprimand or they were copyright blocked or something.
Shortly after this, we started something based on you had started a thing on when blogs were like a huge big. Well, I guess blogs are still big, but like I think there was a period of time where blogs were way bigger.
A blurge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I remember
it's my favorite Ethan Hawke movie.
That's right. The Blurge Anarchy. But I remember you had written a couple of fake movie reviews on a blog that you just started from scratch or whatever. And what I really enjoyed about those were that it was that, everything about the movie was made up that you were criticizing. And so like, like I didn't really like it when everybody died at the end. That's a common one that, you come up with the top of your head, but like it was more than that. It was more than just everybody died at the end. But it was stuff like you didn't like that wasn't actually in the movie. So I thought, hey, let's do it where we have a Siskel and Ebert type of thing where they pretend like they've seen the movie before it came out, and we start criticizing stuff in the movie that's not in the movie. And it's really easy to do this because the movie isn't out yet, and you can make up anything you want to about it. So writing some scripts for that, and of course the thing is, when you're trying to be as deadpan as possible, a lot of people do not understand it when they watch it, and they're like, "Oh, how could you possibly say this about The Dark Knight Rises? This is stupid, blah blah blah." And they don't realize, hey, we're joking. And and I will contend to this day, there was some of the funniest stuff ever written in those things. They just didn't take off. They didn't take off in the way that would make it be like, hey, we've got to pursue this, keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah.
So they were pretty labor intensive too, right? Because we had to be in the same place and we had to shoot and get our lines right and do the different angles. And
yeah,
there's a lot more involved in the production of those videos than the supercuts or what we're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, if we could have had like just a magic crew to come up and be able to do lights and set the camera, and, yeah, exactly.
A group of elves.
Yeah, just an elf. Yeah, that would have, or a group of elves. Yeah, one elf. Yes.
How big is a group? 3 has to be. For an elf group, right?
Yeah, I think you call that a herd.
I thought it was a murder.
What's that?
A murder of elves.
A murder of elves. That's right. A preponderance of elves.
Coming this Christmas. A murder of elves.
Yes.
I think I just got an idea.
Oh, you've got a raging clue, do you?
No, I'm just going to make a movie called A Murder of Elves.
Yes.
And it's going to be a comic horror Christmas movie.
Oh, okay. There you go. I think that would be awesome, actually. I would definitely watch it. So from that, it went back to movies again. We did this movie review thing that didn't work. So now, in a way, we sort of changed it to, I guess you have the best of both worlds with CinemaSins, where there's a jokey commentary on what is wrong with the movie. It's some of it is serious criticism, but a lot of it is not. A lot of it's just, can we make you laugh about this particular moment and whatever. Now, the way it started was we were trying to get something under 5 minutes, easily digestible, type of things that were just the major moments in the movie, and that's it. And it's evolved over time. But anyway, start with The Amazing Spider-Man and how that all came about.
Well, I think we started out like actually intentionally trying to be like the Micro Machines guy from those commercials when we were kids. Yeah. I don't know how many listeners will remember that, but the Micro Machines commercial guy talked really freaking fast. And so it was sort of like, what if that guy was the asshole in his parents' basement who hated everything and nitpicked everything like he knew better. And so that was sort of the persona. And we started with The Amazing Spider-Man, a movie that never needed to be made in the first place. That's why the very first sin of any video ever is this movie exists, because that was made, 5 years after Spider-Man 3?
Yeah, it was not long after, yeah.
So, I think I recorded, I don't even remember how many sins that movie has, 60-something maybe?
It's not much, but we did get a lot in 2 minutes.
Yeah, and so it's just a 2-minute video, and I sent over a sample to Chris, and he basically was like, yes, we should continue this. And so we tightened that up and launched it, and somebody posted it on BuzzFeed, and that was that.
Which ultimately is, if you're trying to be successful on YouTube, it's the number one thing to try to do.
It's one of them, for sure.
Try to find a gatekeeper of some sort that has a lot of followers that likes it, and they put it on there, and suddenly that's where you get the boost in views when you first start.
That can come from a site like BuzzFeed or Reddit, from user-submitted posts, or it can come from Kim Kardashian tweeting out your video, or Taylor Swift liking your cover of her song and tweeting it out. That gatekeeper can be anyone who has a huge audience. And so we got about 250,000 views in that first week, and we wanted to bounce that. And once it hit BuzzFeed, we got, I think it was Forbes that wrote about it. Maybe it was Wired. that wrote about the video and posted it. So I contacted the author of that article and said, we're going to do another one next week. Would you like an exclusive interview or window of time to post the video or what have you? And so we parlayed that into basically a guaranteed Wired. I think it was Wired. Wired is going to post this video. So then that happened. We did the Avengers next, and I think we did a short maybe interview and sent them the link, and they wrote about it. And then we found another, I think that was when Forbes wrote about the Avengers video, and so we went to Forbes and said, hey, we're going to do another one next week. Would you like some sort of exclusive notification or chance to look at? So for 5 or 6 weeks, we basically were able to bounce from major publication to major publication just through old school knocking on doors, basically. Yeah. And by the time that 6-week run was over, we had enough subscriber base and momentum. We knew this was, I think we had 30,000 subs at that point. I think we knew this is going to be something, we can keep rolling this. So yeah.
And I think that I realized it right then and there, because the Avengers actually brought a guy to come out with his own video criticizing everything that was in the Everything Wrong with the Avengers video.
Is that the Avengers?
Yeah,
Wow.
It was the Avengers. And like he's standing in front of he's sitting in front of his camera with a laptop next to it, or desk, I don't know.
It was a laptop.
And he plays the video. You can hear the video sound come up, and he stops it, and he's like, okay.
It was like 18 minutes. It was a long-ass video.
It was a really long
How long
video.
was your video?
Like 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's funny. If you ever look at those old videos, you're like, oh, we must have gone like 8 minutes on that or whatever, and it's 3 minutes, because not only was it way faster, but we were not trying to be that deep onto every little thing. And I think it was, I don't know at what point that started to come around. A lot of our turning points are like The Room and Batman and Robin and all these different movies that really required longer videos and everything. I know that Harry Potter, one of the Harry Potters that we did was one of the first 10-minute videos that we did. Yep. There's a lot of turning points. I know that I remember when we did Man of Steel also, I sort of took it to heart on comments. I usually didn't take comments to heart that much, but there was a guy who was like, you guys missed so much in this video, and he was clearly disappointed. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, there's a lot of things we don't do in these videos, but we haven't gotten to that point where we feel like we can do videos that long yet, super long. And it was Batman and Robin that really just broke that, where we're just like, you know what, we can go get away with any video, because the Batman and Robin one was very popular. So
yeah. Well, and I was obsessed early on with keeping them short. Like when it was Chris's turn to do an edit, if he sent me something that was like 6 minutes, I'd be like, is there any way we can get it down to 5? Like
Really?
anything we can do. I was obsessed. I didn't think people would watch anything longer than 5 minutes. I'm clearly wrong, as we can look back in hindsight and say, but there's so much I didn't realize. I thought in that first month, we maybe had 3 or 4 weeks before we had to come up with a completely new format. Like I didn't even think the Everything Wrong with format had the kind of legs it does. I thought we were going to have to flip it and do Everything Right with like a really shitty movie with 4 or 5 weeks in, just to keep things fresh, because I was an idiot. I didn't know what world I was playing in, and you learn as you go, I guess. But
yeah, I remember actually several videos that I shortened down to get to this point. I remember The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight would have been the first one to ever have the logos sin in it, but I ended up cutting that out. Dark Knight actually is the reason for the logo sin, because I remember when I was in the movie theater and I remember the midnight showing, opening night of The Dark Knight at my theater. We sold out. This was when I was in New York. Mm-hmm. We sold out. We interlocked 7 different auditoriums with 2 prints. And so I'm sort of like obsessed with making sure everything's going without a hitch with this really dangerous interlock that we had going on upstairs. Nobody watching Dark Knight, this is how good I am, by the way, realizes how much danger is involved with this interlock. Like, seriously, one thing goes wrong with one projector, then that means like 1,200 people.
All interlocks make me nervous.
Yeah.
It was always a nerve-wracking thing.
But I remember being so obsessed with it that I was like, okay, make sure that the lights go down, and make sure the sound is right, and all this other stuff. So I was going to each projector as the movie went through, and I'd see the lights go down, and whatever. But then I'd sit there and watch it for the next minute, and it was nothing but logos. It was nothing but logos, and I'm like, God, are they ever gonna just get to the beginning of this awesome beginning, or it's the bank robbery and everything? But like that was one that was going to be like that, and I ended up cutting probably, I don't know, a good 5 to 10 sins from it just to try to get it down to a certain manageable length. And the room had 2 different bonus rounds in it. Had 2 other extra bonus rounds in it that I had to cut and redo the math on it. It's the most complex bonus rounds we've ever done to this day was the room.
You're like John Nash in A Beautiful Mind. Like
it was insane. And I think we still messed up somewhere, but after you get into the hundreds of millions, I don't think it matters anymore. So yeah, I do remember that at the beginning we were trying to get that, those really fast videos. And honestly, if I were to tell you to create a channel, I would say try to keep the videos short and everything. But we sort of realized that people wanted more. Our core audience wanted more.
Yeah.
And that's why we ended up saying, all right, we're going to just go for the downs every time. And if that means some people are going to be upset about it, sorry about that.
Well, and I mean, statistically, it's clear we can see on YouTube that that's just not the case. That people who complain about the videos being too long are a super, super tiny minority. But at the same time, I think if we'd started our thing with 18-minute videos, it probably wouldn't have taken off. I think there was something about that 2-minute bite-size ability that led BuzzFeed to even push it to the front page. They're not going to push an 18-minute video, right? I mean, so I think we almost had to go that route in order to learn we could go longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. And so basically
even 2 parts.
Yeah, which came about because of Transformers. We had a 30-minute video that YouTube was not going to accept. And I finally said, you know what, let's cut this in half. And also, as sort of a bonus for people who are like, why don't you cut it into 2, blah, 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 I have a bunch of bonus rounds in it. Because, I think that's sort of our peace offering. We did it on all the Star Wars prequels too. Yeah. Put a bonus round on each one of those, so it's just sort of say, hey, look, sorry you had to go through 2 videos. Here's some bonus rounds.
Well, and we also turned off the ads on the second part videos.
Yeah,
we did try to go out of our way to make that as smooth an experience as possible. But I also just think it's funny to split it in 2 because I see so many people on Twitter who are like, this movie's so bad they had to split their Sins video in 2. And I'm like, all right, we'll take that. Let's run with that explanation.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the sort of the story of us. We got.
I love that movie. Bruce Willis is excellent.
Yes. Which reminds me of the other thing that we used to do in the fake movie reviews. It was always Bruce, I really hated it when Bruce Willis popped up. Well, we didn't like the Bruce Willis scene.
This was, by the way, we were making these around the time that G.I. Joe sequel was coming out, where in the trailer, Bruce Willis pops up out of the back with the gun, and it's kind of like a surprise cameo. And so I guess we're so tickled by that, we put him in every movie.
Yeah, so every movie is like, it was like, I especially liked it during the Bruce Willis scene, and we'd cut to that scene of him coming out of the trunk.
Time.
And awesome. But he was not only in that, he was like in a whole bunch. He was like in Expendables, and I think he was some other movie at the time. It was just like a bunch of movies Bruce Willis just happened to be in while we were doing that, and it was just always fun to go to that G.I. Joe coming out of the trunk scene. But anyway, yeah, that's sort of the story of us. That's how we came up with it, and that's I think that's a good history right there.
Yeah.
So it's an oral history.
It's an oral history of CinemaSins.
Featuring Bruce Willis.
That's right, featuring Bruce Willis
and Kenneth Branagh.
Bruce Willis and Kenneth Branagh. All right, so that was our first attempt at a podcast. I think that went pretty well, actually.
Yes.
Well, they're not going to hear the parts that didn't, so.
Right. Well, for a first attempt, I think we did pretty well. We talked forever.
We're good at talking.
Yeah, we're good at talking. There's no doubt about it. But anyway, we hope to do this again, and, however you want to go out and comment and go to the Twitter or whatever like that. The kids and their Twitter these days, go and, maybe tell us how we did on this thing.
Also, give us some questions for we do have designs on making this a regular thing, and it'd be nice if the end if we could do a little answer fan questions stuff. If you want to send those to the Twitter or go on the subreddit or to email or through the YouTube messaging system, but we would love to answer your questions as long as they are not, how did you guys get started?
Right, exactly.
Covered it.
Because if you have listened to this podcast at all, you've heard the story.
You already know it.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to check out CinemaSins on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
He did Much Ado About Nothing, and he did Othello, and I don't know if he directed Othello, but he was in Othello.
4.5-hour Hamlet.
Yeah, the 4.5-hour Hamlet, which is also, the trailer has that music in it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. When I first heard it, when I went back, we were doing something, and I think it was like trying to figure out how Derek Jacobi's name is pronounced. And I remember the Hamlet trailer.
That's a tricky one.
I remember the Hamlet trailer actually doing, Warner Brothers Pictures presents, a new film from Kenneth Branagh based on the best work by William Shakespeare. And it's like, Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, Derek Jacobi,
That's what you went for your source.
And
for
I sent it over to Jeremy.
Because I did Jacoby first, because wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Thor and Cinderella.
Yeah.
Like, now he's just a whore.
He's a hack. Oh, shit. He did Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit.
Yes.
Oh, my
yes.
God.
Holy crap.
We could do a whole podcast on the breakdown of the directing career of Kenneth Branagh. What has he done acting-wise? Anything? I know he was in... The only thing I can think of right now is Wild Wild West, beyond the Hamlet. And
He's
Shakespeare
definitely
stuff.
been in some other stuff since. Because he was... it was something recently, actually. And, he was in Valkyrie.
Ooh.
That's a good debatable movie, by the way. Is it good or bad?
Yeah.
He was also in Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit.
Of course.
So he was,
He was the Shadow Recruit.
He was the Shadow Recruit. My Week with Marilyn.
Oh, right.
And Pirate Radio. And, of course, Harry Potter was the big thing because he played Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yeah.
All right.
Is he doing a new Shakespeare thing? I thought I saw that.
I don't think so. Maybe he is.
He's done them all. There's none left.
Murder on the Orient Express. That's
That
something
actually
every
could be
British
neat.
person has to do at some point.
Mm-hmm.
The Winter's Tale.
Is that the one with Colin Farrell?
He's a stage director on that. Why are they putting that in the IMDb, huh?
Stage director?
Huh? He's the stage director on The Winter's Tale. Kenneth Branagh Theater Company's The Winter Tale. That's what
it's
called.
Play, not the movie.
It's a play. It's a stage director, so I'm assuming that, yes, it's a...
He gets up on stage and directs, and then
he gets on
leaves.
stage and directs and leaves. He leaves. Someone preemptively gives him flowers before he...
Oh, thank you.
That's the Kenneth Branagh segment. I think we should always have a Kenneth Branagh segment.
It would be kind of awesome if we did.
Yeah, exactly.
This week in Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Between every podcast, we all have to watch a Kenneth Branagh movie, and then just like a book club. It's a Kenneth Branagh movie club.
I over the week I watched Henry V, and as a professor of Henry V, I don't think he got that right.
No, he didn't find the soul.
He didn't. I mean, some of the iambic pentameter was way off.
There is Fassbender's doing Macbeth. Have you guys seen that?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That could be good.
Yeah.
I wonder if Kenneth Branagh wishes he was a part of that.
Yeah, probably so. He wanted to.
I think anything Shakespeare, Kenneth Branagh wishes he was a part of. I bet he at least gets consulted a lot of times on these things.
If we went back and checked the credits on every movie ever made from any Shakespeare thing, Kenneth Branagh's name is in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably like special acknowledgement, Kenneth Branagh.
Brenneth Fana.
Yeah.
Actually, he goes by Alan Smithy.
Yes,
usually.
Alan Smithy. That's right. Because he does not.
Sir Alan Smithy.
Yeah, because he feels like the movie has been altered in such a way that he doesn't want to have his name part of it.